See that back there? Pretty cool place to work, if I do say so myself. Boss is all right. Anyway, welcome back to the podcast, Golf Talk. We're here to talk about all things better golf. My name is Tim Connor. I'm the host of this podcast. I teach golf all day, every day. That's what I do. That's been my career. And I want to talk to you guys today about two different styles of practice or two different styles of instruction that can both be effective. And just maybe give you a little detail on what could be good for you, what might be a more effective use of your time. Let's dig in. We'll get right to it. Okay, so let's say we want to help a player swing more inside out. Swinging inside out is referring to the club hitting the golf ball from the inside of the target line. And the basic math is that ideally, most good swingers swing just a little bit inside out. So let's start with that. Now, there's a couple ways we could approach this. The first way, let's call option A, the internal cue style golfer has an over-the-top move. Option A, let's help them swing more inside out. Maybe we cue them to drop their right shoulder more through the hit, their trail shoulder for a right-handed golfer. That's something that would traditionally help a person swing more inside out. It can work. Option B, an external cue. Say we lay a stick on the ground and tell that player to swing more towards first base. We angle the stick maybe 30 degrees to the right of the target and tell him, player B, let's call him Gary. Hey, Gary, let's swing more inside out. I want you to work on swinging down that line, this line that I'm drawing down towards the first base line. I have done both versions of instruction. You tinker, you play around with different cues, and you see what people learn from. You see how they gather information. You see, as a coach, it becomes your job to deliver information the most effectively to help that player. And that ultimately is what your job ends up being, is you want to deliver information as effective as possible. So we want success. Coaches want success. We want our players to succeed, and we want the least headache possible for them, for you. Cue A, drop our right shoulder down, could work. It could work. But often it's a slower process to help a player get there than giving them some type of external cue, stick on the ground. And that's why you'll hear different versions of the same thing. For example, there could be 15 different ways to tell you to swing inside out. I could tell you to turn your shoulders more. I could tell you to drop the club behind you. I could tell you to shallow it out. I could tell you to drop your hands inside. Or I could put a cardboard box next to your ball and tell you to not hit the box. Or whatever works for you, honestly. It's whatever's most effective for you. Now, for the player that might process an internal cue better, like dropping your right shoulder, shallowing the club out, whatever, that player tends to maybe have some technical coaching in their background. They've processed these kind of cues before, and they can draw off of experience, and they have the coordination in their body to make that happen. They'd probably still process an external cue faster. Think about that for a second. I rarely use internal cues anymore, although I will still use them, and I will particularly help a player when they're just having a hard time putting the pieces together. I'll give them a few more internal cues that will help them put the pieces together. But I find the most successful coaching cues tend to be external cues. Things that we can think about outside of like the core of our body. So you'll hear me talk about the club a lot when I'm teaching. I will talk about the body some. If the club's doing what it should be doing, usually the body is doing what it should be doing. Most often, the body is doing what it should be doing. Now, when you're taking golf instruction or you're processing golf information, there are a lot of different resources you could get it from. I think however you're consuming your information, it's just important you understand what it stems back to, what it roots back to. Maybe one coaching cue is for your path. Maybe one coaching cue is for your face. Maybe one coaching cue is for your angle of attack. Maybe one coaching cue is for your speed. We always want to relate it back to what's actually happening so you're not guessing. One of my least favorite coaching cues is you're swinging too fast. Okay, what does that mean? My club speed is too fast? Because the best players in the world have the most club speed. So what is swinging too fast? You're swinging too quick. What does that mean? All right, now another way to describe that could be you're transitioning too fast. You're not completing your backswing turn. And because of that, your swing looks quicker, maybe feels quicker to you. Different way to say the same thing with a little more description. And sometimes people say stuff like this because they don't actually know the answer. You didn't keep your head down. Really? You didn't keep your head down. I've given, I don't know, let's say 15,000 golf lessons. It's probably more. I've never, ever seen a player pick their head up on video. All right? Doesn't happen. Now, I've seen hundreds and thousands of players clip it off the heel. I've seen them top it a little bit because their arms straightened out, but I've never seen them pick their head up. I've seen them lift their chest up. I've seen them come out of their forward bend and move away from the ground, but I've never seen them pick their head up. Honestly, at this stage, I mean, I just have to call it how it is. I've been doing this too long not to. It's just bullshit advice. It's bullshit advice. And when I say that, that doesn't mean that advice couldn't help somebody. It's just not effective for most people. And what they're describing actually isn't the thing that's happening wrong. Nobody picks their head up. But if you tell someone to keep their head down and they, in return, keep their chest down and get under the ball, that could be good. But it's probably not the most effective way to cue them to get there. A lot of the stuff I'm talking about today may sound like it could be more beneficial for a coach to hear this. But as a player who's a learner, somebody who wants to advance with the game, you should figure out what's the best way for you to learn. How can you process information better so you can get to where you want to be? All right. So I think this podcast, Golf Talk, whatever you want to call it, I'm not sure what I want to call it because I started doing this a while ago. And when I started doing it, I did about an hour with a guest. And I found those to be a really fun way to do things. But then I switched to these short, more digestible clips because I started a business and I just could not find time to manage other people's schedules. So I started doing these short, digestible clips, and I found this to be a really good format because I can deliver things that hit home, and you can take away one or two things and go practice that. For the purpose of this podcast, Golf Talk, I don't want you to go home with information overload. I want you to go home with some digestible items that you can process that will help you out. 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you take away from this. And if you only take away one thing, that's great. I love that. It means you're taking away something that can help you learn or make better decisions, make better golf swings, shoot better golf scores. That's what it's all about for me. A couple ways to think about this. Internal golf cues, external golf cues. External tends to be more effective for most. And an external cue is usually something that we're thinking about the golf club. An internal cue is usually we're thinking about the body. I would say for most people like 80-20, 80% club, 20% body, because there are times when you're just going to have to flat think about your body. You got to turn your hips, you got to shift your weight. There's external cues that could help you get there, but you know what I'm saying? There's good in both. Let's be effective. That's important. Let's work a little bit every day in the name of better golf. That's important. I'm going to sign off today. Leave this thing a review. Share it with a friend. Give me some damn feedback. Let me know what you thought of this. Send me an email. Reach out to me on Instagram. Love hearing from you guys. I need ideas. I've been doing this thing for a couple of years, and believe it or not, ideas are a really good thing. They help keep things fresh, and I like hearing your perspective. So I will catch you back here, same time, same place, next week. Out.